Hello there and welcome to another episode of Lincoln City's pre-match show, Matchday Live. The Imps hosting bottom of League One, Burton Albion this afternoon, and with no Portsmouth in action today. A win for Michael Appleton's side would mean that they would finish 2020 top of the League One table. What a way to end a pretty horrendous year all round, really, wouldn't it? To finish at top of the League One table. Testament to Michael and the boys for the things they've done so far this season. It has been quite a year on the pitch, at least. And with that in mind, one of the themes, one of the topics of today's show, we want to hear from you this afternoon, want to get your comments in, is what is the highlight of 2020 so far for you in terms of Lincoln City? So do get your questions and comments in. I'll do my best to read those out throughout the show. Let me bring in Gary Hutchinson. Great to hear from Gary as ever. First of all, Gary, a very Merry Christmas to you. How are you?
Merry Christmas to you, Sam. I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, excited to see some football this afternoon.
Absolutely. Let me put that to you then, Gary. Your highlight for the Imps on the pitch.
I think I'd have to go back to the Blackpool game. I've actually got two, and another one we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. But yeah, I'd have to go back to the Blackpool game. I think the 3-2 win, that last-minute winner, kind of encapsulated what football was all about for me.
Yeah, that Blackpool game, the last-minute winner, Lewis Monsma, was absolutely. I think we can see that as well now, Gary. If we can bring that in. And sort of relive that memory from Blackpool away. I believe it's there. Hopefully we can have a look at it shortly. But Lewis Monsma, your pick for your highlight of 2020 was an absolutely brilliant moment. If not, I mean, I'll give you mine whilst we're having a look for that one, Gary, because it was the Wigan game. I know it was only recently, but Tom Hopper, the celebrations in the corner, I thought were just absolutely brilliant. It was one of those moments where, you know, if they're going to lose that game, you're essentially, fifth, sixth in the table, but win it sort of propels you up to not only second in the table, but I think at the time, maybe 1-2 points off top of the table. And it's helped with the building job over the last weeks or so. So that would probably be mine. But in terms of everything else this afternoon, Gary, what about Christmas presents? Tell me about them. What did you get this season for the Christmas?
Quite a bit, actually. I got a Lincoln City pint glass, which I was incredibly happy with because I wanted one for ages. I got the away kit as well. So when you're a football fan, you're always, I think, relatively easy to buy for, aren't you? Into the club shop, and it's an Aladdin's cave in there. So yeah, I also got a pair of home socks as well for walking the dog, the hooped red and white socks.
Good stuff. I got my Lincoln City mug available in the Imps Mega Store right now. I have to get that one in. Enjoying that. The whole game's off, Gary. So this means that it's the only game for a week for the Imps. Look, I don't want to say it's not a good thing. It's never a good thing to see a game postponed. But in terms of sort of spreading things out, giving the Imps a chance to recuperate, could that be a slight blessing?
Well, I actually think so. Yes, I do. I think we've had a packed schedule coming into this, obviously, and we had a week off since Northampton, but it's still been incredibly busy through late October, November and December. A lot of our promotion rivals are not in action, as you've already alluded to. I think today there's only 2 teams in the top 9 in action, us and potentially Charlton. So there's lots of teams getting rest. We know that we're lacking some key players. Liam Bridcut is huge for us. Theo Archibald has been out. Adam Jackson has been out. Obviously, we've got players waiting to come back into the squad. And it really won't hurt to go away to one of our promotion rivals when we've got a few more bodies back, rather than going patched up on the 29th.
Yeah, let's have a look at the League One table then, Gary, because as I mentioned before, look, we know today a win would take the Imps top with Portsmouth not playing. Not only that, we did our sums before the show, but a win would actually mean that Lincoln City end 2020 top of the League One table. It is quite some viewing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, the fixture list is being decimated at the moment, but we do have that game in hand on Portsmouth. And if we were to win, and football's all about ifs and buts, but if we were, I'm a strong believer that points on the board are a lot better than games in hand. You can talk about games in hand all you want. They look really good when you're heading into the final run-in and you've got 2 or 3 games and you might get 9 points, but rarely does that happen. Football doesn't work that way. So it's a great opportunity for us to go there and get a psychological advantage as well. Look, nothing's awarded on New Year's Day. There's no promotions, there's no relegations, but it is a confidence boost. It is a big statement. If we were to wake up on January the 1st, 2021, with Lincoln City clear top of the League One table by 3 points, it would be huge.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. Comments flying in as per usual. Want to hear from you this afternoon. Want to know what your Imps highlight of 2020 was. We'll be putting that to Alan Long very shortly, bringing him into the fold as well. We know that Gary's picked the Blackpool game, Lewis Monsman's last-minute winner. I've picked Wigan, Tom Hopper's last-minute winner. Let me know what your thoughts are on that one. Our other topic this afternoon is regarding football-related Christmas presents. Mentioned it to Gary before, but he got the away shirt, the away shirt that did so well on Gary's recent World Cup of kits as well. We know he's got rocking the formation hoodie, but let me know what your what football Imps present you got this Christmas. In terms of that, let's bring Alan Long into the fold then, because Alan, it's always great to hear from you. You're at the LNER Stadium. Tell us your highlight of 2020.
Yeah, hi boys, and happy Christmas. There's been lots of them, but I'm going to put my SLO hat on, and in fact go back to a game that was played on a wild, windy, woolly day up there in Accrington, which of course was the last time that we as fans went to an away game. It's not so much for the game of football as the whole experience, the fact that we were together with fans. It was a great game of football, which unfortunately we lost. But yeah, that for me was a big highlight of this year for those reasons.
Al, you were at the Northampton game, so what we're going to do is you're going to stay here. We're going to bring in the Northampton highlights and have a look back, because it was one of the performances of the season so far, wasn't it? And I'll put this to Gary first, and then Al, you tell us what it was like being there.
Yeah, it was a great performance. I thought an early goal was crucial. That's exactly what we got. Huge boost for Anthony Scully as well. Showed such composure. And at an early stage of a game, that isn't easy. If you're 10, 20 minutes in, you're into the run of the game. But it was probably one of the first touches he'd got. And I think from there on in, there was only ever one winner. It was a real clash of styles. And that's not being derogatory towards Northampton's approach, but it was a new test for us. It was something that perhaps we hadn't faced on that scale. And we passed it with flying colours. So it was a really important victory.
Yeah, Al, what was it like being there then? Because watching on iFollow, we could hear the noise from the fans. I mean, is there an argument actually that it hindered Northampton, not helped them in the end, having the fans there?
I don't think there's any doubt about that at all, Sam. You know, the fact of the matter is that running up to the game, obviously the fans were starting to come in by about 1:30, something like that. And they although there was only 2,000 of them, they were making a lot of noise, and you felt that was going to be a factor in the game. But we started off on fire, and within 2 minutes, they'd gone from euphoria to doing what football fans, I guess, do when their team is losing 1-0 after 2 minutes. You know, they were upset. So, and I think it affected Northampton in as much as it put pressure on their players, because they started to panic. You could notice that they were playing. I know they play the long ball game anyway, but they were. You know, people were shouting from the terraces, you know, get it forward like they do. And of course, that's exactly what they did. Which played into our hands. Having said all of that, what a fantastic thing it was to see fans in a football stadium, and I was very privileged to be there to see it.
Yeah, Brennan Johnson enjoyed that one as well, Gary. A shush to the crowd. That's what footballers want, don't they? Well, away games, they want to be scoring in front of the home crowd and silencing them. Yeah,
100%. I thought Brennan had a fantastic game, to be honest. I'm not going to say he was the difference between the two teams, because there was 11 players that made the difference. But he's such a cool footballer, and he's direct. It was a wonderful little dink to finish. It's just a shame he didn't come on the 1st of February rather than December, because then Forest might not have been able to have a closer look at him. But in all seriousness, again, that shushing the fans. I know that when you're a fan being shushed, you hate to see it. But it's what football's all about. It's that kind of fake hatred, isn't it? It's playing on the atmosphere. It's the pantomime. And it was nice straight away, first time we've had fans in the stadium, to be on the right side of the pantomime.
Yeah, Lewis Monsma got a bit of a kicking as well, didn't he, Alan? But he took it well. We saw pictures on Instagram of him after smiling, as you would after such a performance. But they did their best to rile him, didn't they?
They did, and like Michael said afterwards, he was far too good looking before anyway. But yeah, I mean, he came through that, in my opinion, with flying colours, because it's something that I don't suppose he hasn't seen this season, and I doubt very much if you see it much in Dutch football. He's either that more strong arm tactic, if you want to use that, and I thought he came out of it very well. He dealt with it very well. We all saw the challenge. It happened right in front of us. There's no doubt. For me, it was a red card, and it was an elbow. But he came out of it very well. You know, we know what Lewis is good at. We've seen him play. He's a good baller. He brings players in, brings the ball out. he's a good defender. He scores goals. What we saw on Saturday was he's got that fighting in him as well. So yeah, he for me was probably, in a lot of ways, he was our best player because of that. Because he dealt with the Northampton threat so well, along with the other defenders as well.
Christmas present comments coming in. Mike Hudson says, I got a calendar. Do you think all the players who are on it will still be here at the end of January? Mike, the way they're going, I certainly hope so. You can't blame them if they want to stay either, considering the football they're playing here at the LNER Stadium. So fingers crossed that certainly is the case, Mike. Nigel says, my daughter got me the same shirt that you're wearing, Sam. I'm also wearing mine today. Yeah, this is the formation gear that you can get online at www.weareimps.com. And Steve Barton says, my best Prezi was a signed first team shirt signed by all members of the squad. I think it's all the players that are currently at the club as well. That's a great present indeed, Steve. Al, you haven't told us what Imps related presents you got this year.
Well, actually, I got a rather nice bobble hat, the grey version of the bobble hat, which as you can see, the old hairline's receding a little bit, so it gets a bit chilly occasionally at a football match, especially on a Tuesday night in January. So, yeah, I've got a rather nice bobble hat, which probably will be making an appearance in about an hour and a half's time, I would have thought.
Good stuff, good stuff. I tell you what, we're going to hear from Michael Appleton now. These are his pre-match thoughts. He gave his pre-match press conference to BBC Radio Lincolnshire before Christmas Day. This is what he had to say.
I understand the lads are doing yoga this morning. Are you joining in?
Oh, absolutely no chance, I mean, I'm stiff. I am stiff, I must admit, but I'm definitely not the stiffest man in the club. The stiffest man in the club is Steve Krause, 100%. I've never met a man in my life who's stiff.
Is it, as I guess as a player, you didn't do yoga when you had your playing career. Is it about, as a manager, opening your mind up when you become a manager to trying different things for the players?
Oh, 100%, yeah. And, I've, different teams that I've had, they've been doing all sorts of stuff. So, it's not that, it's not because I don't want to do it or I won't be doing it. I think the game's moved on massively over the last, 10 or so, 15, 20 years. And, whether it be sports science, whether it be medical, whether it be, training techniques, whatever it is, I'm more than happy to sit down, listen, watch, observe. And I think if I think it can help the group in some way, then I'll use it.
Will you be the one waiting on the pitch afterwards for them all to come out?
Yeah, probably.
And on Burton, as a team, they've had an up and down season so far with Jake Buxton in charge, but a couple of their players obviously very, very, very well. Just how difficult can it be again coming up against a side that are struggling?
Yeah, it is, and it becomes a mentality, a mindset, and that was the difficulty, I suppose, going into a game like Northampton on Saturday. Not that I want this, but and not what I wanted it anyway. But it may have helped us having a couple of defeats because it sharpened the mind and the focus going into that game. And I hope, just because we've had obviously a fantastic result at Northampton, we don't loosen and step away from that. I don't think we will, because you mentioned before we've got targets to hit, and the Burton game and the Hull game are big games for us from that point of view. So it's going to be a tough game. They're a very experienced side. They've got a little bit of youth in the team as well, but they are a very experienced side. And if you get them on a wrong day and when they're at it, we could get punished. And as regardless of whether it's fans in the stadium or not, this time of the year around that Christmas period, there become some results that shock people, surprise people. Listen, you've only got to look at last night. Like Shrewsbury all of a sudden, have beaten ourselves, Doncaster and Hull over their last 4 games. And I think they've got, in them 3 games, I think they've only had 5 shots on target in the 3 games. Yeah, so anybody can beat anybody, and we're mindful of that, and we just got to be aware of it.
Yeah, Gary, let's pick up on that point regarding Shrewsbury then, because it's quite a week, 10 days or so that they've had. They've beat the 3 top teams in the league, essentially. What did you make of them when they played against Lincoln? They seemed pretty well set up, but it clearly wasn't just a fluke result, was it?
No, absolutely not. They're very compact. They take their opportunities when they come. I think they've proven that over the last 3 games. Whether that's sustainable over 10, 15 games, I think you probably have to show a little bit more attacking intent. But they do what they do very, very well. And it reminded me a little bit of the Keith Alexander side, for instance. We were always very good at taking our chances. We were always very good at kind of blocking games off. I remember winning a couple of away games there where we probably had 1 or 2 shots on goal. I think that the fundamentals were there all season. I think under Sam Ricketts as well, the basics were there. They were very organised. They drew an awful lot of games. So I think that they've got the players. They've got some strong players at the back. I think it's Aaron Pierre is one who I really like as well. I think they'll be okay, but I don't see them making a late run for the top 10. I think that they'll have a good run of results to pull away from the bottom 4 and then probably plateau out.
We're going to be talking about Burton throughout the majority of the second part of the show. But Gary, we've got a couple of minutes before we speak to a Lincoln City squad member. And in that, I will just ask you about Burton, bottom of the league. We know they've got a couple of former Imps players in their side as well. From what you can see, does 24th in the table, does that tell the full story for them?
No, not this season. Not in the same way that Southend and Bolton perhaps did last season when they were 23rd and 22nd, but it was bottom 2 and they were a long way adrift. I don't think that's the case with Burton. I think they've been a little unfortunate with some of the injuries that they've had. Certainly the 2 familiar faces in Michael Boswick and Neil Erdley have had spells out injured as well. They've also got Kieran Wallace, who played for us in the National League. They've got some very, very good players. Let's not be under any illusions that the whipping boys are coming to the LNER Stadium. They're not. Stephen Quinn is a really cultured midfielder who's been around, he's experienced. And I think that's the key that runs through their side is experience. Lucas Akins is a player who I think has played in virtually every position on the field. Really good footballer. Joe Powell, I'm not sure if he's fit or not, but if he is, he's a lad they signed from West Ham who scored a few goals for them, got both the goals at Sincil Bank last season as well. So look, this is a tight league, and it goes back to what Michael was saying about anybody beating anybody. Burton could just as easily beat us today as we beat Northampton last week. It's what makes the league very interesting, and I think it's also what makes it good from our point of view that although the league is so unpredictable, we're the ones that have managed to put ourselves in potentially pole position in 2021, which is huge.
2 questions for you. What are you expecting from Michael Appleton's team news this afternoon? The first one, and the second one, knowing what we know about Burton Albion, how did the Imps set up today in terms of, do they try and dominate the possession? We've seen them win the majority of their games so far this season away from home. They do love playing on the counter-attack. We've seen the pace of Anthony Scully and Brennan Johnson against Northampton last week. So is it a case of possession and try and break the opposition down this afternoon, or still try and somehow catch them on the break as well?
So to take the first part, I think in terms of team news, dare I say that there probably won't be a huge amount of changes. I think Michael said earlier in the week that it was going to be too early for a lot of our injured players to be back in the first team. And if that's the case, why would you change a team that's gone away and won 4-0? So unless there is a real big surprise, for instance, Conor McGrandle's becoming fit, I expect very few changes. In terms of the way that we set up, I think when you're at home and you're a team, as we are at the moment, who know how to play a bit of football, especially when it's a team like Burton who are perhaps fighting for their lives, we're going to be expected to go to them. So we're going to be expected to have the possession, and we're going to be expected to break them down. I do think that we can be a little bit more patient with fans not being in the stadium. And as Alan was saying earlier at Northampton, the fans got very quickly on the home team's back when things weren't going their way. I think you can afford to be more patient. If there was 10,000 in the bank today and it was that Boxing Day fixture, we would be expecting them to go for the jugular. So I think there's a little bit less pressure. I think it will be a patient game, but I do think that we will dominate possession and they will look to hit us on the break, particularly with Akins and particularly with, again, I haven't seen their team, but Charles Vernon, who was at Grimsby Town.
Good stuff, Gary. Right, I said we'll be speaking to a Lincoln City squad member. We can do that now. Club captain Liam Bridcut joins us. Great to have Liam on Matchday Live as ever. Liam, did you have a good Christmas, first of all?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Just a day with the kids and the wife. So, yeah, it was a good break, and looking forward to seeing this game today.
Good man. Now, you're not involved this afternoon. How is the recovery from the injury coming along?
Yeah, it's getting there. we've had some progress over the last week now, so I'm in a good space in terms of it shouldn't be much longer now until I'm back out on the pitch.
The boys are flying as well. You must be absolutely desperate to get back out there.
Yeah, definitely. I think this season's been a difficult time for me in terms of injuries, but it's just been a strange case of injuries, bit mad. But yeah, I'm desperate to get him back with the lads. Even though I've not been fit enough to play, in terms of I've always been around the lads, trying to help them as much as I can, and trying to push them to do the best they can, really.
Massive opportunity this afternoon as well, Liam. Imps could go top of the League One table. A lot of the rivals not playing as well. As a squad, are you aware of just how big this afternoon could be? Because I know all eyes is on the game, you know, the tactics, the formations, beating the opposition and getting the 3 points. But there is a huge opportunity there to do something quite special and finish the year potentially top of the table. That must play in the mind slightly. Yeah.
I think in terms of a group, we're a group that we take every game as it comes. We try not to look ahead of ourselves in terms of where we are or where we're going to be. Like you said, we always have a game plan, and we know if we stick to it, we can get results. But like you said, in the back of your mind, you're always looking at that the next fixture or the lead position and that. But we know we're in a key point in the season in terms of if we get a result today, we stand in good stead for the rest of the season now.
Coaching is something I know you take really seriously as well. I know you're taking part or taking the warm-up today. Just tell us a little bit about that and how the coaching element is coming on for yourself.
Yeah, it's something that I'm going to be looking into in terms of after my career of playing. I think over the last probably year or two, in terms of working with Michael, I think it's given me that bit of spark to be in football as long as I can. And I think for me, in terms of how I am with the lads, in terms of my leadership skills and things like that, and I think I could take that into coaching. So for me, I'm here to help. I think Michael's brought me in as a player, as a bit of quality and with my experience, but it's as a role as a captain, and I try to do as much as I can to help the lads if I'm not playing.
There's two topics on today's Matchday Live, Liam. The first one is Imps-related Christmas presents or football-related Christmas presents. Did you get anything of note this year?
I did, actually. I got a present from someone on Instagram, actually. They sent me a little Lego of myself in a Lincoln kit, so that was quite nice.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, you have to let us know in the comments who sent you that. That's absolutely brilliant. And your highlight for 2020 in terms of Lincoln City, anything on the pitch? I mean, it's been a terrible year off the pitch for everyone, but on it's been quite something for the Imps, certainly the second part of it. Yeah, definitely. I think it's just in terms of the group, how quick we've gelled together. I think if you ask the manager as well, in terms of he's got long-term goals with the club, in terms of he wants to be here as long as he can and take Lincoln to the next level. And I think if you're looking at that, we're probably a year in front of where we should be, really. Liam, great to have you on the show as ever. Good luck with the recovery. Of course, hoping to see you back on the LNER pitch very soon, and we'll let you get off and go and take the warm-up. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Great to have Liam Bridcut on the show as ever. Gary, that wasn't you, was it, that sent him the Lego?
No, I would have kept it for myself.
We're missing him, aren't we? I know it was a great result away at Northampton, but there have been games this season where you look at that and you think there's a Liam Bridcut shaped hole there.
Yeah, certainly to a degree. I think George fills in well, both in terms of captaincy and in terms of playing the quarterback role. When you've got a player of Liam Bridcut's undoubted quality, ability and experience, you're always going to miss him. For me, he was the marquee signing of the summer. He was the big name. He was the eyebrow raiser when the rest of League One looked and saw he'd signed for Lincoln City. It sort of gave us a signal of intent. But I think at the same time, whilst we miss him on the field, I think the hearing that he's taking the warm-up means that he's still having the impact off the field. He's still having the impact around the squad. And I think that's huge. And fans should never underestimate the impact of things that they do not see. And I think Liam Bridcut is one of those vital components that probably does just as much behind the scenes that we don't understand as he does on a Saturday when we can see him.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the videos that we've got, because we did say that we talked through highlights of 2020. I asked Alan, who picked Accrington. He also picked Liverpool. Al's not with us because he's gone to do the team news at 2:00, so he can't give us his reasons for that. But one of the reasons why Al, I know, picked the Accrington game, albeit Lincoln lost, was because it was the last time that fans were there. So I'm going to just play this one in here. And Gary, I mean, yeah, look, the Imps lost that day, but it was one of those days, pouring rain, great atmosphere there at the Wham Stadium. It's what football's about, essentially, wasn't it? Yeah,
I think Al's made the pick here for the experience. And I think that everybody has highlights that are not obvious. When you think of when I was asked to pick my highlight, I'm thinking what had me jumping out of my seat. But then I wasn't at this game. If you're at the game and you're experiencing something, be it the opposition fans, be it something at that particular game that gets you, then it's personal to you. And football is very personal. That's what it's all about. It affects people on different levels. And obviously, Al saw something in that game. I mean, it was a great game of football. We didn't get the outcome that we wanted, and we were a little slack at the back at times. But it was thrilling nonetheless. And again, people have their own experiences that they cherish.
Yeah, a few of the comments, a few of the texts that I've had is about the Liverpool game. Look, the scoreline certainly wouldn't suggest that it was a highlight of 2020. But the day, the evening itself, having the World, European and Premier League champions coming to town and at times playing really well from the home side's point of view as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what this game meant to me. It was the one that we've watched together this season. And when Teo's goal went in, I nearly brought the house down, as I seem to recall. For me, it was a showpiece event. It was a no-lose situation. You go out there and you give the best account of yourself that you can. We did that. We went out. We gave a very good account of ourselves. It would perhaps have snuck into my highlights had it been in front of 10,000 supporters. I think the score would have been different. I don't think they would quite have had the gloss on the scoreline. But again, there's so many highlights that we could pick. It's unreal, really. It's actually been, I was thinking earlier, 2020 has been a terrible year for everything except on the field for Lincoln City.
Do you know what? Genuinely, that one, the moment you mentioned there when you nearly brought the house down, which is an understatement of the year, by the way, is genuinely my second favourite moment of the year as well. Words don't do justice as to how loud that scream was when Teo Eden scored that goal. It genuinely made me jump, even though I was celebrating the goal itself. Loved it. Right, let's go to Alan Long, who's pitch side now with today's Lincoln City team news to face Burton Albion.
Hi, thanks, Sam. Welcome to a rather grey LNER Stadium. Yes, I've got the teams here in front of me, and the good news is there's no changes to the starting lineup from last week's 4-0 victory at Northampton, and there's a couple of changes. Adam Jackson and Theo Archibald return to the bench. So, Imps lineup: number 1, Alex Palmer; at 4, Lewis Monsmer; 7 is Theo Eden; at 8, James Jones; number 9 is Tom Hopper; 10, George Grant; Anthony Scully is at number 11; 16, Joe Walsh; 17 is Remy Howarth; number 20, Brendan Johnson; and at 22, TJ Ioma. So on the bench we've got number 31, Sam Long; number 3, Max Melbourne; number 5, Adam Jackson; 14, Theo Archibald; 24, Robbie Gotts; 25, Zach Elbazetti; and 26, Harry Anderson. So quickly run through the starting lineup again: Alex Palmer, Lewis Monsmer, Teo Eden, James Jones, Tom Hopper, George Grant, Anthony Scully, Joe Walsh, Remy Howarth, Brendan Johnson, and TJ Ioma. Okay, that's it from the stadium. Back to you in the studio, Sam.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed, Al. So just to reiterate, Michael Appleton making no changes to the side that played against Northampton this time last week. You can't blame him, really, considering the level of performance that the Imps put in when they won 4-0 at Sixfields last week. This is the team: Palmer, Ioma, Monsmer, Walsh, Eden, Grant, Howarth, Jones, Johnson, Scully and Hopper. I mean, Gary, you didn't expect many changes from Michael Appleton when I asked you around about 20 minutes or so. So you won't be surprised to see that this is the team. But what is your initial reaction to it?
Yeah, again, not immensely surprised, obviously, with Liam Bridcut clearly not being fit and Conor McGrandle's not being fit as well. I wouldn't have expected Adam Jackson to have come straight back into the side without sort of significant training and maybe coming on as a sub. So, it's almost enforced. I would think, if anything, probably people might be surprised to see Harry Anderson still not getting a run out. But we won our last game 4-0 convincingly. It wasn't a bad player on the park. Everybody did their job. It would have been incredibly harsh, for instance, to have dropped somebody like Anthony Scully, Remy Howarth, after they put in such a good performance. So hopefully, consistency is king this afternoon.
Yeah, we'll come on to Howarth and Scully shortly. Just on Anderson, I mean, it's one of those where you're watching the game and it gets to the hour mark, 65, maybe 70-minute mark, and you think, flipping heck, we haven't brought on Harry Anderson yet. And when you do bring him on, and we talk to a lot of opposition fans, have done on this show, they always flag Harry Anderson up as one of the players to stop. And I guess it's one of those where they don't like to use the term super sub or impact sub. You do bring him on at 70 minutes and you think, wow, I mean, that is quite a sub to bring on at this level, isn't it? I guess that's one of the flip sides of not starting him.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the point you make there about, we don't want to label him as a super sub, and quite right, because a super sub is a player who doesn't really do it from the off and only does it when he comes on. And so, that's not Harry by any stretch of the imagination. But he was one of the first names on the team sheet at the beginning of the season. I think it's form of other players that's keeping him out at the moment. But you always know he's going to be ready. You know what he's going to give you when he comes on. If you've got two tired fullbacks on 70 minutes and suddenly you've got Harry Anderson, who's not just got pace, but he's got power as well. He can make a big difference. And when you look at the players on the bench, actually with Zach Elbazedi and Theo Archibald as well, we've got that in our locker. So if it is 0-0 this afternoon going into 70 minutes and the fullbacks are tiring, and let's face it, Neil Eardley, we know, great player, very consistent, but pace perhaps was something he did get done by last season. It would be frightening for Burton to know that they would then have 20 minutes of Harry Anderson and or Archibald and Elbazedi at them.
It's a settled back four, isn't it, Gary? How important is that? We're seeing a lot of teams having to postpone their games, a lot of teams having to make changes throughout their side. The fact that Michael's named an unchanged side for the third time in a row, and that back four is, as I mentioned, settled before. I mean, how big can that be going forward?
Huge. I think when you look at the clean sheets that we've kept, we've done incredibly well at the back all season, bar 2 games. If you took Sunderland and Portsmouth out of that, and I know it's a very football fan thing to say, but if you take those 7 goals out, our defensive record is actually phenomenal. We've got a really, really good defensive record. Bar the slip for the Shrewsbury goal, which we gifted them, we would have gone into this game on the back of 2 clean sheets. I personally think Theo Eden has been very good at left back, certainly against Northampton. I didn't think he was bad against Shrewsbury either. And it's, the more these players play together, the more they begin to understand each other's games. And look, let's not forget, TJ Ioma is in his first senior season of football. Theo Eden is probably playing the most regular senior football he's played throughout his career. And Lewis Monsma is in his first season of English football. So you've got a very, very young and relatively inexperienced back four who are actually playing like they've played together for 4 or 5 seasons already. So it's important to remain settled and keep that continuity.
Yeah, I saw a stat on Twitter. I meant to screenshot it, and I was going to put it into the show, and lo and behold, I didn't. I'm pretty sure it was from the Twitter account that's well worth a follow, D3D4, which focuses on Division 3 and Division 4, or League 1 and League 2 football, as of course it's known now, that mentioned EFL clean sheets. And I know for a fact the Imps were right up there. They were possibly 2nd or 3rd in terms of the whole of the EFL, which is quite some going, isn't it, Gary?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And that's down not only to the back four, but to Alex Palmer as well. He organises the defence. So, really, it's not just about the saves that Alex Palmer makes. It's about what he sees happening in front of him and the instructions that he gives. I think when we've had to make changes, for instance, Adam Jackson playing at centre-half, Robbie Gotts, Harry Anderson playing at right-back, we've had Sean Rowan at left-back, Max Melbourne. We've actually chopped and changed a lot, but the method has remained very much the same. And I think a big shout-out to Joe Walsh, who came in, kept some clean sheets, got injured, has come back in and done really well again. And him and Adam Jackson have kind of been interchangeable. So it is huge. Look, we are one of the better performers in the EFL, and that goes without saying because we're obviously 2nd in League 1, and hopefully we'll go into 2020 top of the table. But there's a story behind that as well. There's a story of evolution, and it's built on strong foundations, and that's the back four and the goalkeeper.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper is a man that we can hear from now. These are his pre-match press conference thoughts.
I understand you've done yoga this morning. How was that?
Yeah, no, it was good to be fair. They've just shortened the sessions down, I think, really, because it's quite a busy schedule at the moment. So 45 minutes of yoga can be a little bit grueling, but no, it was good to be fair. Good to keep on top of things, and I think it's definitely beneficial for us.
And because of the work goalkeepers do, with it being full body work, do you think it benefits you maybe more than some of the outfield players?
Yeah, potentially, especially sort of the upper body stuff and shoulder work. I think it's massive for us, especially sort of because you have to be so strong in the shoulders. I think having that mobility there as well is a welcome balance. So it definitely helps.
Do all the players take it on board, or is there a couple of skeptics in the changing room?
No, it's too fair. It's optional to some of the lads, but there's a few lads that is compulsory. And I don't know if that's just because they want people to do it, or they need people to do it. But no, I'm more than happy to do it in the mornings before training. It's like I've said before, it's beneficial. So half an hour every day, it's nothing really. So yeah. A lot of people swear by it. I remember Gareth Barry saying the only reason why he was playing so long was because of yoga. So there's a lot of people that are got a lot of positive things to say. So
clean sheet wise, I was just having a look. You're level with where you was at Plymouth last year. You got your 10th clean sheet on Boxing Day last year, so you could be ahead come Boxing Day. What do you put that down to? The success you've had, especially defensively this season as a team.
I'm not sure. Maybe it's just I've been lucky with the defenders that I've had. Last year, obviously, we had sort of a set amount, set sort of back five. That was sort of regulars, and then this season we've got a bunch of lads that are unbelievable, to be fair, and we're in possession, out of possession. So I feel like with the lads in front of me, they limit the opportunities that teams have got, and obviously they do break down. Then obviously I'm there, but I think the amount of chances that teams have had in these sort of the last 18 games have been very limited. So, but no, I sort of pride myself on the communication side as well. I think that helps, and I think the defenders like it as well. And I'm sure you hear me throughout most of the 90 minutes. I'm sort of shouting away, but I think it's something beneficial for me, and it keeps me on my toes and keeps me in the game when perhaps I don't have a lot to do, and it certainly keeps the defenders sort of ticking over in those games, certainly where we're not getting worked as much.
Yeah, 10 clean sheets before the turn of the year after a delayed start as well. No wonder he's smiling, Gary, but it seems like he's putting all his success down to, well, the defenders and yoga.
Yes, yeah. Look, let's not take away the third vital component, which is ability as well, because Alex Palmer is a great goalkeeper who, in my mind, will almost certainly play regular Championship football, if not top flight football. Liking him very much to Dean Henderson, who had time at Shrewsbury, but I think he's probably better for us and Plymouth than Henderson was for Shrewsbury. So I can't heap praise on him enough. Obviously, he talks about a settled back four. I think well-drilled back four probably, because I do think when we change personnel, as we touched on earlier, we keep some degree of continuity as well. But they're very well drilled. It's obviously a lot of work on the training ground. And if a little smattering of yoga helps that, then so be it.
Adam Jackson is back amongst the substitutes, Gary. I guess when he was first brought in, he was probably brought in by Michael as one of the first choice centre backs. Obviously, he's been out injured, so it will remain to be seen, won't it, whether he'll make his way back into the starting 11 at some point. But Joe Walsh doing really well. We've talked about clean sheets there as well. But big to have him back and available if needed, because bodies are what's needed at a time like this.
Yep, absolutely huge. We've talked about versatility, and we've had that within the squad. But it's also nice to get key players back from a competition point of view as well. 3 weeks ago, with one of them out, if Joe Walsh puts a pass astray and his confidence is knocked, perhaps he has to stay in, and you might pile pressure on. Whereas that if Adam Jackson is there waiting in the wings, You've then got the opportunity to rotate if you need to. Joe Walsh needs to be on his game. Lewis Monsma needs to be on his game. That's competition, and professional footballers relish that. I think Tom Hopper would be the first to tell you that he would have liked Callum Morton to have stayed fit, so that he had that pressure and competition as well. So it's good from a squad point of view. From a fan's point of view, obviously the more players we have back, the better. And for Adam Jackson personally, I thought he started the season very, very well. And I think he's a very good footballer. And I think to have 3 League One quality centre-backs vying for 2 positions will stand us in good stead for the very challenging second half of the season.
Going to be speaking to a Burton Albion fan, Jack Stout, very shortly. Before we do, let's remind ourselves what happened when the two sides met back at the LNER Stadium this time last season. This is what happened. Yeah, Us and Them by the Rills, the song that you could hear in the background there. Great little tune from them, much appreciated to them, letting us use their music as well. Gary Goldspot, if you can guess the significance of that game.
That was one of my top moments of the season. The save from Josh Vickers was huge. I was right behind the goal that day as well. Very significant game for 2 reasons. First of all, it's the last time we were all in the stadium together, and nobody could have possibly imagined it. But from my point of view, the reason I felt it was a huge result is it'd been quite a challenging time, with Michael coming in. You were always looking over your shoulder. There was a few teams below us showing good form. I think Tranmere were desperately unlucky to be relegated on points per game. They were looking very good. Teams below us were picking up points. I felt that win would have been a turning point. And when Josh Vickers saved that penalty and secured us all 3 points, I came away thinking, that's it, we are now safe. And maybe that's the pessimist in me. Obviously, the world changed very drastically within 7 days. But that was a huge, huge result at the time, probably understated by the fact of what's preceded it. But absolutely a vital game and an enjoyable one too.
Yeah, a double gold star for you for giving me 2 significant reasons there. Great work. That's why you're on the show. Let's bring in Burton Albion fan Jack Stout then. Jack, great to have you on. Thanks for your time. A tough start to the season. You're bottom of the table. Obviously, you know that, so apologies for reminding you. But does it tell the full story?
I think so. It's been when you're bottom of the table, there always has to be. You can never have one specific reason. There's been a lot of reasons that we're down there. I've got just noted down in front of me that we're very inconsistent offensively. There's times where we've scored in a game and perhaps we haven't deserved to score in that game. We haven't created the chances that should deserve a goal in that game. But also defensively, a lot of individual errors, which haven't really seen from a Burton team for quite a long time. When we were obviously up in the Championship, it was more just to the fact that you got the impression the players just couldn't compete with some of the quality that was up there. But now we know that they can compete at League One level. There's a lot of players that are good enough to compete, but there's just times where they switch off, and that completely costs us a lot of games that we've played in this season.
Let me ask you about two of our former players then. Neil Eardley, Michael Boswick. How are they getting on for you?
Michael Boswick suffered a pretty early season injury, which kind of saw him ruled out until relatively recently. And Neil Eardley looks good at right back. He's got a good delivery on him. Obviously, I'm sure you guys all know that. And he performed well. Then he also picked up an injury, which is obviously pretty disappointing for us. We saw Michael Boswick kind of sit in a defensive midfield position, which might be a little bit different to where you've seen him. I know when we played you at the LNER Stadium last season, he looked to be sat in a complete proper back four defence. But they're kind of settling in now, because I know Neil Eardley's returned to the 11 today. Michael Boswick is starting as well, kind of back where they'd normally be in the formation, which I guess is a 4-3-3. So they've been solid. We're just looking for them to kind of get into the groove now. Hopefully, not pick up any little injuries that might kind of ruin their momentum. That hopefully pick up.
Hi, Jack. If I can just ask you about a player as well. I was quite interested in the summer that you signed Charles Vernon, who had a loan spell with Chorley and probably only a couple of good months with Grimsby. How's he settling in? I mean, I haven't seen if he's starting today.
He's like quite a few players. He picked up an early season injury in our Carabao Cup game against Hutchinson, and that saw him out until probably October time. But since then, he's looked very positive as a signing. He's a very fast winger, very direct, very skillful. He can go on either foot, which is brilliant. He's put in some great deliveries for us. He's scored some good goals recently. He's probably in pretty good form at the moment. So hopefully he can continue that. But yeah, he's been a really, really solid signing and arguably one of our best players this season.
Yeah, Gary, Charles Vernon does start this afternoon. This is the Burton Albion starting 11 in full. O'Hara, Brayford, John Brayford's the captain. Daniel, Edwards, Boswick, Quinn, Powell, Akins, Vernon, Eardley and Gilligan. And Jack, when I read that team out to you, what are your reactions? To me, initially, it seems like a very experienced starting 11.
Yeah, we've got a lot of experienced players, especially if you're looking at kind of in the defence. I think all of our defenders are kind of towards the age where you consider them more experienced. Obviously, with Boswick and Eardley in there as well, you've got John Brayford, who's been at the club for a long time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but can also, it has cost us at times. A lot of teams can hit us on the break, with obviously our teams on the slower side, arguably through the ageing of the players. So we can get caught out on the break. It does mean that we're relatively disciplined, but like I mentioned, some individual errors just kind of ruin that discipline that we can see at times defensively with us.
Jack, just finally then, we'll leave you with a score prediction this afternoon. How do you see it panning out?
We haven't kept a clean sheet this season. We haven't kept a clean sheet away since last October. So I'm guessing there's going to be goals. I'd love to see us pick up a win. I'd love to see us pick up a point because I think it's a really difficult place to go. But I can just see Lincoln edging this one, unfortunately.
Well, Jack, we certainly hope you're right. Much appreciated for your time as well, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Cheers. Thanks for having me on. You too.
Thank you. That's Burton Albion fan Jack Stat. And Gary, the stats that he was giving us at the end there bode pretty well for the Imps. I always enjoy it when an opposition fan comes on and gives us stats like that, because not conceding or not keeping a clean sheet all season, not scoring many away from home as well, it would bode pretty well, wouldn't it?
It would sound like it bodes very well. I am a huge stat fan, and they always seem to prove me wrong. So I won't get too excited at the moment until we do score our goal or until they don't score theirs. I think they are a very, very experienced side. They do have goals there. Lucas Akins is a player who scored past us, I believe, in the past, and has scored goals at championship level as well. So when I heard their first team, I'm thinking that doesn't sound too bad. That sounds, very, very close to the Burton side that last season finished, I think 12th or 13th, and probably would have gone a little bit higher had the season carried on. So the real interesting thing is the lack of pace versus pace. But then we said the same thing at Sunderland. Look how that turned out. So I don't think we'll be resting on our laurels or taking anything for granted this afternoon.
Now, I know you enjoy your stats, Gary, but should we remind everyone what you said the score was going to be last week, or should we keep that one under wraps?
No, I think we should just probably move on from that quite swiftly, Sam.
Yeah, definitely wasn't 0-0. Right, let's have a look at the starting 11 graphic then, if we can. Let me just run you through it. We'll have a quick chat about that as well. Palmer, Ioma, Monsma, Walsh and Eden is the back four is unchanged. The whole side actually is unchanged from Michael Appleton this afternoon. George Grant is the captain once again. Remy Howarth, James Jones, and then it's Brennan Johnson, Anthony Scully and Tom Hopper, Long, Melbourne, Jackson and Archibald both come back into the fold. It is then Robbie Gott, Zach El-Bezedi and Harry Anderson is on the bench. Let's mention Theo Archibald then, Gary, a player that you really like. He's back on the substitutes bench this afternoon.
Yeah, that's great. He's a player who's got lots and lots of potential. I think he's direct. I think he's very tricky. Still has a point to prove, though. And, I'm kind of backing him very strongly. I think that he has the potential to be a very, very good footballer. Unlucky to get injured when he did, because he would probably have played the position that Zach El-Bezedi did against Shrewsbury, and may well have been able to use his pace and trickery to the same effect. It's also big for Zach that Theo's back, and that's going to be really interesting later on in the game, because if we decide to go with a change on the left hand wing, it's going to be really interesting to see who Michael goes to. Does he go to Theo, who would appear to have been the first choice reserve on the left wing, or does he go to Zach, player of the round in the Papa John's Trophy, goal, 2 assists, clearly a man brimming in confidence? For such a small squad, it's interesting that we've got so many options on the attacking left.
Richard Godson says, respect to the returning old guard, but let's hope the Imps show them how we do things this season. And Steve O'Dare says, sticking the old neck out, 3-0 to the Imps today. He says sicking the old neck out, but I'm pretty sure he means sticking, unless he's had a very good Christmas on the alcohol. 3-0 to the Imps today. Do let us know your score predictions. We've got around about 6-7 minutes left of today's show. Let us know what you think the score is going to be and who will get on the score sheet for the Imps this afternoon. Gary, we haven't mentioned Remy Howarth. He's back in the starting 11 once again. Played really well against Northampton. I think there was one moment in the first half where he made slightly the wrong decision. We can see highlights here. This is actually Brennan. So go on, let's talk about Brennan, because this was brilliant. And was it Remy that finished it off here? Was it?
It's Remy's goal.
It was Remy's goal, isn't it? Of course it is. Yeah. So Charlie's done exactly the right thing, and I'm wrong as per usual. But Remy Howarth, let's talk about him, because he's really starting to grow into this side, isn't he?
He is. He's a player that a couple of weeks ago on Matchday Live was in the squad, and we said, it's a big night for Remy. He's got a lot to prove. He's got to seize his chance. And he went out and he seized his chance, and now he's getting a run in the first team. Michael backs players in most instances that take their chances. Zach El-Bezedi is one who's been quite unlucky. But Remy certainly seized it. There was one moment in the 4-0 win against Northampton where there was a bad decision. I think you would probably struggle to pick a single player who makes 100% right decisions throughout the game. But I think when you're attacking and you make the bad decision, it's probably highlighted a little more. Lots of people like Remy. Lots of people buy into the Remy Howarth story. The career-ending injury, dropped out into the non-league, pushed himself forward for league football, and he's proving that he belongs here. And I think that's quite big. When you come out of the Welsh League and you've come out playing for Skelmersdale and play teams like that, no disrespect to them, to become a League One footballer, that's huge. He's got a great attitude, and he's being rewarded at the moment. When Conor McGrandles comes back and Liam Bridcut comes back, do I think Remy Howarth will keep his place in the first team? Potentially not. But then if he takes his opportunity and scores goals and gets assists until that happens, then he's going to give Michael lots of interesting decisions to make.
Absolutely, Gary. Let's bring the League One table back into the fold. We'll have a look at that. Because if you're only just joining this, we've done the stats, or we've done the sums, I should say, before the show. And with all the postponements going on, with the Imps having a game in hand, if they win this afternoon, they will finish 2020 top of the League One table. Quite some feat by Michael Appleton and his boys. Gary, if we look at who's playing this afternoon, I think out of all of those, am I right in saying that it's only Ipswich and Charlton this afternoon? The rest have been postponed, is that right?
Don't think Ipswich are playing either.
There you go. That's why I'm always wrong.
I think it's just Charlton. I know Accrington Doncaster's gone. Peterborough, Hull and Portsmouth are not playing. I think if you fast forward then to the 29th when we were playing Hull. I think Doncaster are playing then. But of course, if we win, we'd be on 37 points and they couldn't catch us. So a win today does leave us top going into 2021. But, it's tightly packed up there. Lots of good teams. And even out of shot, you look further down and you're looking at your Blackpools and your Sunderlands, teams that will be hoping to be in the top 6. So it's that old question of, do you want games in hand or points on the board? Today we have an opportunity to take our game in hand over at Portsmouth, get points on the board, and everybody else will have a game in hand of us that they have to win. It's harder. It's nice to look at a table and think, if we win all our games in hand, we'll be above them. But it's not always the case. So it's a huge opportunity this afternoon. But I still can't get over looking at the League One table and seeing Lincoln City in the automatic promotion places.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it? Neil Tunstall says, would have been nice for a full LNER. Yes, it certainly would, Neil, to welcome Bozzy and Erds back. Great servants. The club wished them well after we stuffed them today. Fingers crossed. And Jacob Langham's commented as well. Happy Christmas to you, Gary and Sam at the Imps. Yeah, happy Christmas to you, Jacob, as well. I know you comment every single week. Watch Matchday live without fail. We do appreciate your support. We know you've been shielding since March as well. So good stuff. Keep it up. And hopefully we'll see you back at the LNER Stadium very soon. Like everyone will be back at the stadium very soon in 2021. Fingers crossed indeed. But shout out to Jacob. And I should say another shout out as well to Kyle Keneally. 16th birthday's coming up. It was on the night of the Hull game. I promised that I'd give him a shout out for the evening of the Hull game. Of course, that's been postponed. So an early happy birthday to Kyle. Got a couple of minutes left on the show, Gary. We'll finish by looking at the upcoming fixtures for the Imps. The next 5. Burton Albion's on there, of course it is. And then it's Wimbledon, Peterborough, Accrington and Shrewsbury. When you look at those 4 games, obviously the Peterborough one at home stands out.
It does. What stands out for me is the gaps between the games. I'm a big fan of that. I think with such a small squad, it's going to help to be able to recuperate. I think the only Saturday, Tuesday there is the 9th to the 12th with Accrington in the Cup. The Peterborough game stands out. But if you take the right amount of points from Burton and Wimbledon, it's a free hit at Peterborough. And I think that's what you have to do. You accumulate points where you can, and then you go into those big fixtures thinking maybe if we go in there and get a draw. Don't think Michael would ever play for a draw. But, if you're drawing games against Peterborough United, you're not actually doing too bad. Shrewsbury looks very challenging on the 16th. We've seen what they can do already. They're in great form. They're certainly a very different side to the team that we beat in the EFL Trophy. Let's not underestimate that Accrington game either, because it's coming at a time where you win that game, you get prize money, and it's right in the middle of January with the January transfer window going on. That might affect Michael's budget, might be the difference between getting one extra body in for a couple of months on loan and not doing. So lots of crucial games coming up. But let's face it, at this level of football, every game is crucial when you're competing at the top end of the table.
Absolutely. Gary, are we doing a score prediction or not? I mean, I gave you the benefit of the doubt last week and you chimed in with a 0-0 shout. So I'll leave it totally in your hands this afternoon.
I'm better with my team selection predictions, aren't I? I think we've probably got enough in our tank to win it. I'll go for 2-0 Lincoln. Good
stuff. Like it, Gary. And as ever, your comments, your opinions are much appreciated on Matchday Live and have been throughout 2020, no doubt about that. And thank you to you at home as well for watching, for commenting in. We'll be carrying on with the show into 2021. Myself and Gary hopefully doing one from the LNER Stadium very soon as well. Up next on Matchday Live, it will be the away game at Wimbledon, won't it? This time next week, we'll see you for that. But for now, you can get your match pass by going to www.weareimps.com/I follow all the build-up with BBC Radio Lincolnshire right now. Enjoy the game. Fingers crossed Lincoln City can end 2020 top of the League One table. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.